World Geography, Latin America, Economic Development. Here are the learning objectives. 1. Describe the major causes of deforestation. 2. Describe the Amazon rainforest and pinpoint its location on a map. 3. What role does the Amazon play in the carbon-oxygen cycle? 4. Identify the groups in the Amazon competing for scarce resources. 5. Describe Brazil's economy. 6. When a nation hosts a major sporting event, such as the Olympics or the World Cup, what are the costs and benefits? Deforestation. Causes of deforestation. Deforestation is the removal of trees from a thriving forest. The major causes of deforestation and the destruction of the rainforest in Brazil and the neighboring countries include terraced farming, slash and burn, ethanol production, strip mining, and the harvesting of tropical hardwoods. Terraced farming. Terrace farming is a technique for growing crops where the farmers cut step-like horizontal fields into the sides of hillsides or mountain slopes. The ancient Incas used to use this technique, and they use this technique in countries like Japan and Vietnam even today. The terrace farming technique reduces erosion, but it also increases the rate of deforestation. Here's a diagram of terraced farming. You have one field and a small wall, and then another field below it. And you'll have many of these different steps against a hillside. Slash and burn. Slash and burn requires that farmers cut trees, brush, and grasses in an area and then burn all that debris to clear the field for crops. The ashes are used to fertilize the soil. In the rainforest, the soil is poor in nutrients and quickly exhausted. So farmers must go out and clear even more land. So this increases the rate of deforestation. Ethanol production. Ethanol is a flammable chemical used as a gasoline additive. It reduces the amount of oil used in the refining of gasoline, saving energy. However, ethanol is produced from corn and sugarcane, and both of these require large amounts of water and arable land. That's more land that has to be cleared for crops and more deforestation. Some other criticisms are that the use of food crops to produce energy results in food shortages and price increases at the supermarket. Strip mining. Strip mining is the extraction of mineral deposits beneath the forest floor. Miners must clear away all the vegetation, all the trees, and the soil on the surface. Again, major deforestation. Tropical hardwoods. Tropical hardwoods are close-grained woods. It's hard for the rainwater to penetrate the grain of this wood. They're resistant to moisture. And these hardwoods are prized for making furniture and musical instruments. However, the technique to harvest these hardwoods is to clear the entire forest and then go in and just select the few trees that you need. So again, a major cause of deforestation. Rainforest ecosystem. Rainforest location. A tropical rainforest is a broadleaf evergreen forest. It's found near the equator, where the climate's warm and wet year-round. The Amazon rainforest is the largest in the world. It is more than half the size of the continental United States. The Amazon lies in Brazil and then in parts of neighboring countries. Ecosystem. The rainforest ecosystem has several layers. I'll speak of just two. The bottom layer is the forest floor, and up in the very top, where you have the thick layer of overlapping tree branches, that's called the canopy. Rainforests cover approximately 6% of the Earth's surface, but are home to about 50% of all living species of plants and animals. This wide variety of plants and animals, we often use the term biodiversity to describe it. Lungs of the Earth. The dense rainforest environments play a key role in the Earth's carbon-oxygen cycle. The carbon-oxygen cycle turns a gas called carbon dioxide, or CO2, into oxygen and then converts the oxygen back into CO2. Carbon and oxygen are cycled among all the living things that need them to survive. The breathing of animals and the burning of fossil fuels, like coal and oil, they produce CO2. And then trees and other plants absorb CO2 and use the carbon for their growth. Trees and other plants then release oxygen into the environment as a waste product, which we breathe in. The Amazon creates about 1/4 of the Earth's oxygen. Competing Amazon groups. Native peoples. The native peoples of the Amazon region, they've lived there for about 12,000 years. They traditionally hunt, fish, and grow crops on small plots of land. When a small plot of land is no longer fertile, they move on, they clear a new field. So native peoples, they use their resources, they use them in a sustainable manner. They don't cause any long-term damage to the environment. In the 1960s, the Brazilian government decided to develop the Amazon, and they built a highway into it. They opened up the region to economic development. The arriving farmers and ranchers and loggers, they were a threat to the native peoples and the environment. Rubber tappers. Generations of rubber tappers, they've harvested sap from rubber trees in a sustainable manner. They don't cut down the rubber tree, they make a small cut into it, and then they collect the sap that drips out of it. The tree doesn't die. Rubber sap is used to make products like erasers and tires. Deforestation is leading to the disappearance of these rubber trees. Loggers. Loggers harvest trees for use in wood products. As I mentioned, the most valuable tree species is the hardwood, mahogany, rosewood, teak. Loggers will clear-cut the forest to get to the scattered hardwoods. Clear-cutting means that all trees in an area are removed. These areas never recover. Loggers further damage the environment by building roads in order to get to these hardwoods. Then new settlers follow these roads deep into the forest, causing even more environmental damage. Here's an example of a clear cut in Brazil. Settlers. Rainforest farming is really difficult because the soil loses its fertility. The thin soil is already poor in nutrients, and then constant rainfall washes out any remaining nutrients. Unfortunately, Brazilian settlers, they're not nomadic like the native peoples. They own their land, and they can't easily relocate to a new patch of land once the soil is exhausted. Here's an example of a patch of land being cleared by settlers for farming. cattle ranchers. Cattle ranchers are a small but powerful, rich group that own large areas of rainforest land. The loggers went in and they cleared the rainforest, and then the ranchers moved in after this on the new grasslands with their cattle. Here's a map showing the deforestation of the Amazon. You can see the yellow regions were first deforested, followed by the red regions, and the green is the untouched forest. Environmentalists. Environmentalists arrived in the rainforest in the 1970s. These people were attracted to the region. They hoped to study the rainforest plants and animals to find cures for diseases, and some of them wanted to work to help the native peoples. Brazil's economy. Newly industrialized. Brazil is a multicultural democracy with a population of 200 million. It's a newly industrialized nation, the world's seventh largest economy in terms of GDP. The economy continues to experience growth, although it's slowed recently a bit, and they have their first female president, President Dilma Rousseff. Economic activities. Brazil has many natural resources, and they have a large and well-developed commercial agriculture, mining, manufacturing, and service sectors. Commercial agriculture is a primary economic activity and accounts for about 5% of Brazil's GDP. 1/3 of the GDP is contributed by manufacturing sector. This is a secondary economic activity. It produces automobiles and machinery. Brazil also has a very developed service industry sector, with teachers and accountants and lawyers and doctors making up the tertiary sector. And then you have more skilled research scientists working for the oil industry, and these people would be engaged in quaternary economic activities. BRIC. Brazil is a member of the BRIC bloc of countries. That is Brazil, Russia, India, and China. BRIC nations, they all oppose protectionism. They want to sell their goods to one another. They want to bolster the trade with one another. And unfortunately, or fortunately, there's some differences between the BRIC nations. First, Brazil and India are political democracies, and Russia and China are more authoritarian in nature. Second is that India and China are raw material importers, while Brazil and Russia are raw material exporters. So they have some things in common, and they have a lot of differences too, though. Reducing social inequality. The Brazilian government is committed to the introduction of social policies designed to reduce inequality. The Fome Zero program, what it does is it tries to eliminate hunger in Brazil. They use direct financial aid to poor families, distribution of vitamins and iron supplements, and also the creation of low-cost neighborhood restaurants for people to have a reasonably priced meal at. Other social programs counter teen pregnancy and strengthen family agriculture. Cultural growth. The International Olympic Committee, or the IOC, selected Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, as the site of the 2016 Olympics. The 2014 World Cup was recently played in Brazil. These sporting events, they lead to a large government expenditures on urban infrastructure projects in an attempt to improve the country. The end. Thank you for listening.